The conditions for coming up with the idea of this build were like the perfect storm. First, while I was thinking about building this workbench, my local hardware store started to sell this rough cut blank of Fear. Cheap, but very resistant. Then Yannick Gizdala, one of my favorite bass players, uploaded a video when he was showing off his new Headless bass, and I thought I really want that. Then my YouTube feed recommended me yet again the same video of Gizdala where he was reviewing a bass pedal. Then he started with this clip.
How I use these for this.
And I don't know what it is, but I really like the white finish with the black hardware of the Headless bass. And finally, I was in my annual rewatching of The Lord of the Ring. So I had this idea. What if I create an Headless bass inspired by the one that Gizdala home, but that has the white finish and the black hardware like the Hendrickson bass, and with engraving inspired by The Lord of the Ring. But I try to take the cost lower than $150 while making this as high quality as humanly possible. And that was quite a stupid idea. So I bought the wood and I start to think of any single way of reducing the cost for this build, which may or may not include creating my own headless system from scratch. Buckle up, because this was a journey.
To start off this journey, I need a design. But first, the specific. I'm using Fenrir here as a reference because I want to make this a 5-string bass, but with a short string spacing, just like Fenrir, which is gonna put a whole set of challenge when it comes to the bridge, but we will talk about that later. And I want to make this as a short multi-scale bass, so 30-inch to 30. After I'm done designing the neck, I move to the body, and I'm using Cavassier now as a reference because I want this to be an homage to Gizdala and the Mathison bass, and it's going to be for me, so there is no problem about that. So I'm using that as a reference, and then I'm adapting the body shape to make it work in a offset and headless design. Here is an idea that I had to scratch. Originally, I want this to be a PJJ setup for the pickup, but I couldn't make it work with the budget constraint because I can have 3 shitty pickup or 1 good pickup. And the idea here is to make something that is high-end on a budget, so I chose for the P bass. And I also had to scratch the pickguard, which I like it, so I'm going to use that idea for a future bass. After I let this idea and the design sit for a couple of days, I pick the jigsaw and start to cut. I need to make one blank for the central part, the wings, and the entire body that is going to be glued underneath everything. So let's start. Now that the blanks are done, it's time to put the wings aside and to work on the central part. To start off, I redraw the central part into the blank, and then cut it with the jigsaw and then plan it. As satisfying as this part is, I made a mistake of planing a little too much, and I think that I took away 2 mm out of the central part, which I'm going to work on later. Here I have a blank of ash from an older project. Now the remains are not big enough to be used for a guitar or a bass fingerboard, and normally I will not use it, but in this case, because I'm trying to save money, what I think that I will do is cut a piece at the top, glue it at the side, and I should have enough material to squeeze a fingerboard for this project. And while that is drying, I'm gonna work on putting the truss rod on. After I cut the threads, it was time to fix my mistake. As I said, the central part is 2 mm thinner than it has to be, and to make up for that, I glue 4 smaller pieces. 2 of ash that I cut from a scrap piece, they will essentially work as thread binding, and then to make up for the thickness for the neck, 2 smaller strips of fir. After the glue was dry, I planed them, make sure that everything was flush and straight, and then I put the side dot. And with this, the central part is, for now, complete. Now we can move to probably the most important part of this build, the bridge. When I decide to make this into an endless base, I start to look into Headless bridge. Of course, because I want to see my option, and I ran out into a problem. These things are pricey. The cheapest option that I had was the same bridge that I use on Fender, which I hate for a reason that I'm going to touch in a minute, but that was $15 per saddle. So 75 bucks, half of my budget. So that's a no. But during this research, I understand that this bridge system are really ingenious and dumb at the same time. Let me explain. They can all work in the same way. You have a base, which can be rectangular, can be a tube, doesn't really matter. The important thing is that you have the saddle here, and then here you have a hole, and through that hole it's going to pass a T-tube that is going to have a bulky part here at the top, a thinner part that can go through the hole, and this thing is hollow, threaded on the outside, and the most important thing, the head here is made in a way that it prevents the core tube to rotate inside your base. Sometimes is a square piece inside a rectangle, other time, like in the one of Ferrer, you have a grub screw here at the top that prevent this to rotate. And then you have an external tube, still hollow on the inside and threaded on the inside. And here comes the ingenious part. You're gonna feed the string inside your core tube, making sure with your measurement that the ball here can enter your external tube but not pass through your core tube. It's going to be stuck here. And when you rotate this thing clockwise, because your core tube cannot rotate, it's going to move backward. And because this is going to be locked at the other end, you're going to move the string backward, put it into tension. And this is kind of where the ingenious part ends, because now you have a problem. This part right here is very, very bulky, and you have to find a way to adjust the saddle, kinda your normal bridge. Now, in the case of Fenrir, the way that they did it, the saddle here is locked with your base piece, and at the bottom of your base piece you will have a hole. And the base piece is not actually attached to your body. There is an anchor piece here at the bottom that is going to be screwed at the body, and then you will have a smaller screw that will go here and lock it into place. And if you want to move the saddle and adjust intonation, you need to take away the screw or lose the screw a little and then move it by hand the entire base part, which is highly imprecise at best, but also very uncomfortable because the string is exactly over your screw. And it doesn't matter how thin this is, because the under tension is really hard to move. You need to detune the string, lose the screw, move it by hand, lock the screw, and then retune the string and hope that you get it right. Operation that on the normal bridge is gonna take you 20 seconds at most. It's gonna take several minutes per string. And this is the dumb part, because manufacturers try to fuse together a bridge and a tuning system. But you don't have to. You can have your tuning system behind your bridge. And knowing that, I think that I can build a tuning system.
The first challenge was to create the core piece. At the time of recording, I couldn't find something that will work on its own, but I did stumble across this tube that is threaded on the outside with an M6 dimension, which is what I need in this case, and this is a 3D printer replacement part. My plan is to pair this with a square nut to make my core piece. To do it so, I first super glue the two pieces together, and then I drill a hole from the nut into the hollow tube, thread the hole, and put the grab screw there. This way I'm not just relying on the super glue, but there is also a piece of metal that is preventing the tube from spinning without the nut. The external tube was easier to make. I found this tube threaded on the inside. There is 3 cm, but I want 2.5, so I cut the end, use the file to clean, and then cut a cross notch. This is there so that I can put a piece of metal and use that leverage for easy tuning, because your fingers are not strong enough to turn this with the string tension. Trust me, I do this way even on Fenrir. For the base, it all started with this L-bar. At the beginning of this project, I made a test piece using just this as a base, and in fact you can see the test piece right here, but I want to make this thing sturdy, and to do it so, I use a U-bar. Now this is 1.3 cm thick, which is my string spacing, and in the internal part I can fit an M6 nut with a 0.5 degree of tolerance, so it is perfect already as it is. Now to make the base, I first cut the U-bar to length, then I drill a hole into the L-bar using a step drill, use a file to give a little bit of clearance for the tube, and then I glue the U-bar to the L-bar using my core tube to center the two things. After the glue was dry, I could cut the excess, clean it with the file, and then drill the 2 holes for the screw that will hold the base into the body. And with this, you have your tuning system. But I want to go one step further, so I screw the base into a piece of plywood, making sure that they are in their final position. I then glue the side together, and then glue them into an aluminum base, making this a solid single piece. I shape them for static and put the paint. Now this is not the final paint job and the final aesthetic. I'm going to clean this a little bit later during this project, but it's just so that you can see kinda what this will look like. And with this, I solved the bridge problem. I don't know you, but I'm a bit tired of talking, so I'm gonna let the montage speak for me. This is how I glue and shape the body.
We are at the last stretch. What remains now is put the frets and the finish. And I push away putting the frets as far as possible because up until now I didn't know what to do for the 12 frets and the engraving in general. This is a Lord of the Rings inspired base, and I love Lord of the Rings. I want to give it justice. I don't want to put the inscription on the one ring into the 12 frets and engrave a bunch of stuff into the body and call it a day. It's a bit overused, it's a bit boring, and really uncreative. I want to make something that makes sense, and because I decided to make it white at the very beginning of this project, I thought, why not making this a Gondor inspired base? And here comes the challenge, because compared to the other kingdom and other races that are portrayed in the movie, Gondor is a bit plain in its design. You have the white tree that is front and center in every piece of armor and clothing, and the wings in the helmet, but other than that, it's simple, not a lot of decoration. But what I have is Andúril, Aragorn's sword, and the herald that Arwen saw for Aragorn in the book, and it's designed by Tolkien himself. So I think that I could take all of this and rearrange it into the body. Okay, I'm really happy with this, so I need to explain what I did. For the 12 threads, I decided to put the stars that will also symbolize Arwen, Aragon Love, which I think it's a great idea. Then, for the back, I went for Aragon. I have the sword and the crown. I just did a very quick line art based on the movie counterpart. And then for the back of the neck, I went for the runes that are inscribed in the sword. And overall, this gives me a design that will flow from the neck to the body and vice versa. And that was an idea easy to come up. The problem this time was the front. I knew that I want to put the white tree there. Of course, I had to. But if I just slap the white tree, as in the herald, it's gonna be a bit boring and uninspired. It's too simple of an idea. But while looking at the armor, I found that they have this little ornament, like branches, on the pauldron and arm pieces and leg pieces. So I thought, why not using the same idea, but for the body? And I tried so many iterations of the same thing. I tried 2 branches, I tried 3 branches, I tried putting just on one side, I tried 6 branches, and at the end I decided to go with one big branch and one smaller at the bottom, and it will not take too much space, but at the same time it's big enough that you can immediately see while looking at the body. So I'm really happy with this. That's all of this because I'm really happy with this. And now that I engrave all of this at the cost of my back and my neck, I can now put the finish. And here we have the final base. And I'm happy to announce that at the time of recording this, I have this base for 4 months now, and the tuning system works. Now I have a problem, just one problem with this, which is the paint job. I try my best to make this paint job lasting, and I put the what is called the primer and everything and a protective coat, but it didn't really work and scratch right away. If you have any tip for painting over metal, I will be all ears. And I have probably an improvement that I can put on this, which are roller washer. This thing, they are basically just 3 washer, and the one in the center has sphere, basically, to lessen the friction. That's the idea. And I want to try to see if putting that on this, I can turn this thing with just my hand. It's cheap and it maybe will improve the tuning. Will make my life easier while tuning, which is great. And talking about cost, at the end, this cost me, let's see, it was $20, $25 worth of wood, between $10 for the fir, and I'm totally exaggerating this, but $15 for the ash. And then we have $90 for the pickup, and the bridge in its entirety cost me around 45 bucks. The fret wire was around 15, and another 10 bucks for the knobs, the strap lock, and the finish. So it's around 180 bucks. But you have to take away 15 bucks for the pickup because I bought this when it was a discount, and also the 15 bucks of the fingerboard because I didn't really bought that. I use scrap piece that I couldn't use in any case, so it's around 150 bucks, which is great. It is very cheap, but I like the look, I like the sound, and I like to play it with it. So I think that overall this is a success. This was a success. I learned something new, and if you want to go headless for very cheap, you can build your own headless system. So this is the part where I beg for your attention. So if you like this build and if you like this video, please subscribe, put a like and leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.